So self-worth is truly the one thing that can change everything in your life. In your life, your relationships, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your amount of joy and fulfillment. So in Worthy, which is all about, how to believe you're enough and transform your life, there's simple steps that give life-changing results. There is an entire chapter called The One Thing That Changes Everything. And I break down, and I'm going to share right now in this video as well, but I go deep in here on breaking down the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Both are important, but so many of us literally live our entire lives just building self-confidence. And then we never realize, why don't we feel like we're enough?
You give such great tactical tools. Like, I mean, I could go into, I'm trying to think of like my favorite of all of the tactical tools, because there are so many, and there's so many that really align with the things that I write about. And I love the fear of failure. That's a huge thing. Like what you open the book with, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. Picturing the little child. I want to read that line, because that's a really powerful line in the very beginning of the book. Jamie talks about how when you're sitting in the classroom and you know the answer, and the teacher asks, the question, and what is that little voice inside of your head that makes you not lift your hand and not say the answer? You're right. Like, that's the first little instance of that, even when we're children, of not speaking up, not trusting ourselves and our intuition, that we know the right answer. We know the right direction. And I loved that line from the book. And I remembered that from the very beginning of the book to the end. But I mean, I'll let you speak to that too. I was going to ask you, of all of the tools in the entire book, what do you feel, if you had to pick one thing from Worthy, one thing, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. So there's like 3, and just what you were saying.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I know, and there's over 20 tools, because, sometimes we get a book and then we're like, well, that was great, but how can I apply it to my life? And I wanted this book, and you just said it so beautifully, Mallory, for wherever anyone's at in their life. I wanted them to be able to apply this to their life right now, to literally learn to believe in themselves, even if it's for the first time ever, or for the first time in a long time. And it's just, and the part you're talking about, I think so many people can relate to is, often when we're little kids, like, we're bold, we're all the things. And then so many of us can remember that moment in the classroom. And for everyone listening right now, maybe you can think back, and, there's this moment a lot of us recall where, like for the first time ever, we knew the answer, but like, we decided not to raise our hand. We decided to doubt ourselves, or think maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'll get made fun of if I stand out and know the answer. And all the stuff starts happening, and we start to learn all these lies in our life that lead to self-doubt, to us hiding in plain sight, doubting we're enough, feeling like an imposter. And what I want to say is, and you asked about the difference, like between self-confidence and self-worth. That one thing alone is actually super life-changing for anyone listening. And I just, and I would love to kind of explain that, because that's something that everyone listening can apply to their life right now, today, from this episode, from this show.
Yes, I would love to do that too.
And in real life, Mallory, just everyone can, I think, watch, and I just love you and celebrate you, and love how you are fully authentically who you are out into the world, and you cannot fake authenticity. And that is why so many people connect with you. But just for everyone listening in real time, because I know this is all one big family.
It is.
As I sit here in my Sundays talking, I just want everyone to kind of put this in perspective through Mallory for a minute, and think about, not to put you on the spot, but think about like Mallory's journey, and how you're watching it unfold before your eyes, of her, journey through everything from television to pageants to launching, Living Fully Co. to now in My Sundays. And all of us have dreams and hopes and ideas and things inside of us. And as we step into who we are in this world and who we feel we're called to be, our self-worth will be our ceiling. And so why I wrote this book is for every person, no matter where you're at, no matter if you're going to launch your own version of Living Fully Co, or you want to have the self-worth and belief and confidence in yourself to just decide to start showing up authentically on social media, or to make new friends as an adult, or to set boundaries for the first time ever, or to say what you really feel and mean what you really say. I mean, there's so many areas this applies to our lives. But even watching you, Mallory, and everything that you're building in real time, the greatest key to your success will be that you continue to fully show up in alignment with your assignment as who you authentically are.
I love that line in the book, by the way.
Right?
Alignment with your assignment.
And then also that you don't doubt yourself out of your own destiny, because to watch you doing these great things, and I'm just sharing this in community with everyone listening now, like we're all together in a room in our Sundays, and we're just talking and all cheering you on. And we're all part of this beautiful journey with you, with everything you're putting out there in the world. And here's what happens to a lot of people. At some point in the journey, sometimes before they've even started it, they deep down inside don't think they're worthy of it. And so they stay stuck. Because here's the thing, just to take a big step back, self-worth, and when we have lack of self-worth, which again is very different than self-confidence, I'll explain that in a second, but if we have a self-worth issue, this is what it usually looks like in our lives. If we have pretty low self-worth, and by the way, I've been in a spot where I've been accomplishing so much and the world's telling me I'm amazing, and I have a lot of self-confidence, which is all external based, but inside I didn't believe I was enough. And when we struggle with low self-worth, for a lot of us, it looks like this in our lives. It looks like we are stuck. We are stuck. We don't go for the thing. We have the business idea, but we don't launch it. We have the website we want to register, or we want to put our art out into the world, or our ideas, or we want to share a really cool idea at work that might change everything, but we stay stuck. We don't do it. We don't know why. We tell ourselves stories like, oh, I just need more experience, or, oh, I need to get more skill sets, but really, we don't realize it's because deep down inside, we actually don't feel worthy of the thing. So we will stay stuck. And that if we have low to medium self-worth, what that looks like in our life is we might go for the thing. We might launch it. We might put ourselves out there, but then we will sabotage it along the way. We'll write the whole first half of the book and then we'll stop. We'll put the business out there, and then we don't know why we're scrolling Instagram for 8 to 10 hours a day. Like we'll totally put ourselves on the dating app. We'll start dating, and then we meet a great person, and we all of a sudden put him in the friend zone and aren't attracted to him, and we don't know why. Like when we don't think we are worthy of something, whether it's of receiving love a certain way, because deep down inside we don't fully love ourselves yet, whether it's any number of things, we'll sabotage it, or we'll hit a ceiling. And then if you have medium to high self-worth, but it's not quite high, what that looks like is we'll actually go for the thing. We'll make it happen. We'll be crushing it everywhere, but we'll arrive at it still feeling like it's not enough, and like we're not enough, and like something's missing.
And unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled.
I love that when you talk about how like the self-worth it's the foundation of your fulfillment. I've never thought of it like that, because I have had different versions of self-worth, and it's amazing that you speak to those 3 different people in this book. So it's like anybody that picks up worthy, whether it's like, I've never had self-worth, and I've never started anything, and I've never raised my hand, and I've never been that person. You talk to them in this book. The medium person, you self-sabotage. Self-sabotage was such a big like theme in my own life. And that's a tough one, because like, especially if you are a perfectionist or like a recovering perfectionist, it's like, that's my own fault. It's like a double whammy. But I love that high tier self-worth piece, that it's tied to fulfillment. Because man, do I relate when you talk about over and over in this book about how you got to the top of the mountain and you had all the things and everybody's like, awesome job. and you still don't feel it, it's like, well, what in the heck else can I do? Nothing. Go
Yes.
inside.
Yes, because
Yes.
here's the thing, like wherever you go, whatever you achieve, whatever, you still take you with you. And
Yes.
and so and here's the thing is for everyone listening, you can even think about in your own life right now, if you've ever well, let me take a step back. So okay, really fast, self-confidence and self-worth, so different.
So different.
And we are raised by lots of well-intended, awesome family members, and if we're blessed, and by commercials and advertisements, all kinds of things, our whole life, to think, if I just get these things, then I'll be happy, not realizing that those things all build confidence, but none of them build worth. And self-confidence is while it's an internal trait and it's so important in our lives, it's so valuable in our lives, but self-confidence is largely based on external things, on how we assess our skills and abilities, how we compare and stack up and measure to others, our willingness to try and go for it, if we're winning or losing, how much of the world's definition of success we have. And our self-confidence fluctuates. It's fragile. They do studies that the boxer that wins the fight is automatically 30% more confident. Like it's very and our self-worth is very different. That is the deep internal knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are, not as your past or your past mistakes, not as how much you achieve, but exactly as you are. And when you think about like self-confidence is like the house we build and all the rooms, and we can add to them and decorate them, and it's like amazing and important, but our self-worth is the foundation beneath our house, and our house will only ever be as secure as that foundation of self-worth. And for everyone listening, if you think about like, maybe you've always had like a certain, or you've had many, but a certain goal or dream that you thought like, when I finally get that thing, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to be fulfilled. And maybe it's getting married or having kids. Maybe it's like getting the dream house or hitting a certain goal weight or a number in the bank account or a job title or fame or any of those things. And then we work so hard for these things, right? And have you ever worked so hard? Sometimes it's months or years or decades. And then you finally got that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you arrived at it, did it like solve all your problems, make you happy and fulfilled forever?
For like 5 minutes.
Right? Yeah. For most of us, it's like, oh, we were happy for a month or a week or 5 minutes. And all of a sudden we're like, why do I still feel like something's missing, or like it's not enough, or like I'm not enough? And then what we do, and by the way, when we think about this, every commercial on television is like, if you get this, and like we just tend to think those are the things, right? Every well-intended family member says, how, are you married yet? Are you going to have kids? How's your job? We think once we have great answers to all those things, we'll finally feel enough inside. And in the pursuit of all those things, right, we finally get one, and then we realize, oh, I still feel like something's missing. So usually what we do is we then think, oh, I just got to work harder. I just got to go to the next level. I just got to achieve more. And this becomes this never-ending cycle for most people. Their entire life, they arrive never feeling enough or fulfilled. And those things are beautiful and important, and they all build self-confidence, but none of them build self-worth. And that's different. And so when you, and the one thing I want to share really fast is that when you build self-worth and believe you are enough as who you are, it doesn't curb your ambition. Like you actually become more ambitious, right? Like when you learn to believe you are enough as you are, you become more ambitious because you realize like, oh gosh, if I fall flat on my face, if I fail, it might shake my confidence a little bit, but it cannot touch my worth. And you become more ambitious. And the beautiful part, like I've only learned to have true self-worth in my life the last 3 years. That's it. And I still work harder than ever. But when I achieve the things I'm so passionate about, I actually feel fulfilled. Versus like something's missing, I'm not enough, I'm perpetually not enough. I'm no longer sabotaging things in my life. And it's self-worth is truly the one thing that changes everything. And I know there'll be so many people listening right now that just step one, have awareness going, oh gosh,
Yes.
yes, self-confidence is important, but all the things I've been trying to do, thinking that they'd make me feel enough, they're all building self-confidence, which that's important,
Yes.
but they do not build self-worth. It's very different. And just that awareness is going to be life-changing.
It's going to be life-changing. And
Yes.
I've never, ever heard anyone speak about self-confidence and self-worth in this way ever. It was a very big aha for me. And even in the parts of the book where you were talking about, I'm a big, like, I love to visualize. I know that you do too. Like, I go back to the like old school Jamie that I know that talked about it in Believe It, where you would sit in the QVC parking lot and you'd visualize yourself and you'd visualize visualization is big for me and you too, but for me and you both. But I'd never really thought about, I'd always thought, okay, to manifest these things, and, we're in the new year, it's February, to manifest these things, I've got to do a great vision board. I got to visualize. I'm going to, really be thinking about these things. But you bringing in the aspect of, no, actually, you know what you got to do before you get those magazines out and before you make your chart of the things you want in your life? You've got to get that self-worth right. You've got to that's actually the foundation. And I thought that was really powerful in terms of visualizing goals and things in your life. And I'm a big visualizer, and I'd never thought about it like that. That was powerful. That was really powerful.
And I love a great vision board. And here's what's wild is when you can look back at the things on your vision boards that have happened, right? It's often when you also in parallel learn to believe you're worthy of those things, right? So we can have like the big vision boards and all that, which I love, and I love manifesting and love all that. And I know exactly what you just said, that none of them will actually happen until we learn to believe we're worthy of them, or we'll make them happen, but then we'll sabotage them, right? Because our self-worth is our ceiling. It is the thing. It is the thing.
It is the thing.
Yes. Yes. It is why I wrote Worthy. And literally, like you shared, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds. Yeah. This is not, for me, this is like, oh my gosh, it was, and I feel so blessed. And yes, I worked really hard and did 100-hour weeks for a decade and all the things to build a $1 billion business for my living room. But I was actually praying about this recently. And I just felt this like feeling like, I feel like I did all those things, not so that I had some great outcome, but to learn this lesson that no matter how hard you work or how much you achieve, like, yes, that's fun. And I'm grateful for all of it, but it's not the thing that ever makes you feel enough. It's not. And I don't think, had I not gone through all of it, and then like, I remember, oh my gosh, Mallory, I remember, being a little girl watching Oprah growing up, always dreaming of meeting her.
And this story, and it took you how many years to call her after? 4?
Oh my gosh.
Tell that story. That's a good story.
That is what low self-worth looks like in our life. And by the way, sometimes it's that we meet a really cool new friend as an adult and we don't know why we're not reaching out, asking them to go to coffee. We don't know why. And like, we will sabotage things when we don't think we're worthy of them. And yeah, my whole life, I watched Oprah as a little girl in my living room. And, I was alone a lot growing up. I'm adopted. And I just had this like, no business even thinking this, but like, I just was like, I'm going to meet her one day. And I dared to pray and believe that was going to happen. And, and I, 40 years later met her and had lunch at her house, had a 3-hour lunch. And imagine, whoever, for everyone listening, whoever maybe one of your heroes was your whole life from the time you were a little girl, and then meeting them. And then I had this 3-hour lunch and it was amazing. And by the way, Mallory, at that moment in time, I was like crushing it in the world. I was so confident. I just sold at cosmetics for $1 billion cash. And I was on the Forbes list. All these things looked like I must just feel so great on the inside. And I didn't know yet the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. What I know now is I had a whole lot of self-confidence. I had this amazing 3-hour lunch with Oprah at her house. At the very end of it, she gave me her cell phone number and said, call me anytime. You can call me anytime. And I left there and I did not call her for 4 years. 4 years. And in that process, I told myself stories, right? About like, oh, I just need to wait for the perfect thing to say, or, oh, everyone wants something from her. I'm going to prove I don't need anything. Like just all these stories. And literally 4 years later, I realized that the real reason I hadn't called her was deep down inside, I didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't feel worthy of being her friend. And I knew that was a lie. Like, I remember this day going, wait a minute, my soul, if I pray and I ask God to tell me that, my soul knows I am a kick-ass friend.
Yeah.
Like, I am worthy of being anyone's friend. I know that. But self-doubt, which lives in our thoughts and our mind, had convinced me this lie that I wasn't worthy. And that day I was like, I literally imagined like the way you'd see a volume dial on a radio in the car. Like, I imagined turning down the volume on my self-doubt in my mind.
I love that.
And turning up the volume on that knowing, that still small voice, that intuition, that knowing in our soul, that, you know, for me, when I pray, it's how I hear God talk to me, is through my intuition. Yes. That's like, oh, you are more than enough. And you are so worthy of being her friend or anyone else's friend. And that day I was like, I had to listen to that knowing. And that was the first time I called her. And you know, what's wild is then we've taught a course together, all these things since, but what's wild is it almost didn't happen because that time and so many others, I was doubting myself out of my own destiny.
Yeah.
And when I think about everyone listening right now, and I think about like, just when we learn to build self-worth and believe we're worthy of a great friendship, of a healthy relationship, of sharing our ideas and raising our hand, of writing a book and sharing our story, or putting our ideas out in the world, or showing up authentically. Like, I just think of how many people are doubting themselves out of their own destiny right now, because they believe the lie that they're not worthy of it, or that they're not enough. And I'm just so passionate about how the time for change has come, literally. And that's why also it's just an honor too, Mallory, to just champion you and cheer you on. Like, I know so many people listening are, because we can all see ourselves in another woman as she is believing she is worthy of the things she's doing, whether it's making a certain bread recipe, or like showing their kids making a disaster of the house, or launching her business out into the world. We see that in us, in you. And I think you help bring that out in every person watching, because at a soul level, every one of us knows that we are fully worthy as we are. And like, that's one of the things I'm most excited about Worthy, about the book, is that this isn't like, oh, here's how to learn this foreign language that's going to take years to understand. It's like, oh, no. Actually, every person, this is the best news, is every person listening to us right now, I do not care how many past mistakes, failures, how many people you've hurt, how many things you regret, where you come from, what you don't have or don't know, or how many successes you have. I don't care about any of it. You right now are fully worthy. And it's not about learning to be somebody else. It's about unlearning the lies that tell you you're not. And that's what's so powerful and beautiful. And so, yeah, I'm just really, really excited. And
this is our victory lap, right? I like it when you say that in the book, like, let's run the victory lap. Like, forget about so many people live in the past and their past mistakes. And I just, you know, you're talking about people watching me, and I just have to say, because truly, I mean, Jamie can say one single sentence to me, because Jamie is, you are so wise. You are so wise. You can say one thing to me and it completely changes my mindset and the trajectory of the whole entire decision I'm going to make. And like, they're huge decisions. So that's why I was so excited to read Worthy. And I'm so fortunate and lucky, because not only did I know about the book, I was one of the first people that you were like, this was my life's work. It was a divine download. And I'm like, okay, Jamie, show me the book. Let me see. Let me read this book. And let me tell, oh my gosh, it is your life work. It is your life's work. It is a divine download. It is all of the things that you said. Because when I read this book, it jumped off the pages to me. And it's really cool, because I'm so lucky that I have some access to you, and you can help me through these things. Now you're helping everybody else. Anybody that picks up a copy of Worthy and reads this book, even reads like 2 chapters of this book, it's going to actually change your life. It's going to actually change your life. And that is so cool because, I interview a lot of people and I'm like, this is really awesome. And I'm really inspired. But then I read this book and I was like, okay, this is actually going to change a lot of women's lives. And it's really cool. And I'm so grateful that we got to talk about it because I'm certain that every single woman after listening to this podcast is going to be very inspired and they're going to pick up this book and it's a gift. It's a gift to women. And I'm so certain of what you just said, that all the things that you went through in your life, they guided you here because this is incredible stuff and worthy.
So I'm asking you this. I'm just curious. How about right now? Like, you sit in front of me, you've had all these accomplishments. Do you still have any struggles with this stuff, like to this day? Because stuff I teach people how to get better at, most of the time it's still stuff that I'm working on myself and I struggle. So does Jamie Kern Lima still struggle to this day with her worthiness?
Every single day, and a little less every single day. I think it's a lifelong journey. And here's a huge breakthrough that I'm going to share. First on your show. I've never spoken about this before, but it is powerful. It's changed my life. There is a massive difference between self-confidence and self-worth.
What's the difference? Okay,
so here's the thing. And y'all, when I had this breakthrough and really started doing the work here, it changed everything in my life. So self-confidence, right? It's deeply internal, of course. It's a trait, but it is most closely linked with external things. So, the willingness to try, the confidence to try, the willingness to go for it, how you assess things on the outside, meaning how you assess your strengths, your skills, how you compare to others, right? Your self-confidence you build, and it's super, super important, but it is most closely linked to things that can fluctuate, that aren't always in your control, right? Like there's the boxer story about how, the boxer that wins is automatically 20% more, a better boxer because all of a sudden they believe they are, right? But all of a sudden, if that guy loses or that woman loses, 3 or 4 times in a row, their self-confidence can fluctuate. And your self-worth is deeply internal. It's believing you are enough exactly as you are. You are enough. You are valuable. You're worthy exactly as you are. It's deeply internal, and it doesn't fluctuate based on external things. Now, here's the big breakthrough. You can be, so for anyone listening right, I'm gonna get fired up. I'm gonna jump out of the seat. Jump out of the seat. For anyone listening right now, if you are someone who is like, okay, when this thing finally happens, then I'm gonna be enough. When I finally get married or have the kids, or I finally hit 7 figures in my business, or 8 figures, or 9 figures, or 10 figures. When I finally get my 6-pack, when I finally, right? And then you get that thing, and it's like, okay, it's great for a minute.
Yes.
But it's never quite enough.
Yes.
It's because you have built confidence. You have built confidence in that journey. Now you have confidence in your body and your 6-pack. Now you have confidence in your business, but your self-worth has not changed. And there are so many people, and this is me most of my entire life, where I thought if I achieve enough, I'll finally feel enough. If I achieve, if I accomplish this thing, if I build $1 billion business, if I feel confident in a swimsuit, whatever it is, then I'll finally feel enough. But you can have all the confidence in the world and you will not be fulfilled if you do not have strong self-worth. And that is huge because...
Wow. Wow. Can I just say something? Wow. You just described me. Like even now.
Yeah.
That is awesome what you just flipping said right there. Holy smokes. Because you and I talk all the time. You've never said that to me before. Whoa. So sorry, you guys. So I just want to say this to you. I have really built a lot of self-confidence, but I don't know that I built that much self-worth. And so it is why I haven't enjoyed a lot of the successes that I've had. And to the extent that I have, and you too.
Yeah.
Man, you are on there. Do you think the self-worth thing for most people is, not all of it, but do you think a lot of it is shaped in childhood from experiences? Because I know being raised by an alcoholic, it's pretty hard to have a lot of self-worth, right? Because I don't think my dad had self-worth. And I think, I don't want to assume everybody knows this. Tell them a little bit about your childhood. And do you think a lot of this is shaped self-worth early in our lives? I know there could be an event later where you're like, I just lost all my self-worth. He left me, or I went bankrupt, or she cheated on me, or whatever it might be. But I do think a lot of it can come from childhood.
It can. It's also, though, reinforced our whole life. We're in a culture that rewards when you do things that get external applause. They're almost always tied to confidence or productivity or things that are external. And we grow up believing that if we do those things, we'll be happy. Every single, commercial or ad or most companies are based on you achieving an emotion if you get this thing, but it's almost always external. And then we're raised by families often, whether they're well-intended, healthy or not. We've never learned this. We've never learned this.
Where did you get this distinction from?
Huge breakthrough, actually, over a really mortifying, embarrassing story I've never shared before, that has to do with Oprah. And by the way, Ed, I want to say this is something I believe affects everybody. I think that, if you really, I don't want to get too granular here because we'll be on for hours, but you think about, look at our country, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's something that we have to pursue. It's not like, we shouldn't innately be happy, right? There's so many things all around us. I don't want to get started. I didn't come here to look cute today. Let's go. I'm like fired up. But here's the thing. There's so many things all around us that tell us if we finally get the thing, if we finally are, whatever, then we'll be happy. And I believe a couple things. I believe you need both self-worth and self-confidence, right? Just because you have self-worth and believe you're enough as you are doesn't mean you're now complacent and you're like just chilling, because that's not a recipe for fulfillment either. But if you do not have self-worth, you will never be truly fulfilled, no matter how much you accomplish. So you need both, right? So you need both of those things. And this is why I wrote Worthy, and it's why it's such a breakthrough, because for anyone out there who does not feel like they're enough, and maybe you're really good at hiding it because you are crushing it in every area of your life, or you're just really good at being the strong one, or whatever it might be. But I believe that deep lack of internal worthiness is why nothing ever feels enough. It's why we don't feel enough. It's why we finally get that big thing and then we're not happy or fulfilled. Or it's why we sabotage things in our life because we don't believe we're worthy of them. And so how this happened for me is, my whole life, I grew up watching Oprah in my living room. And that was sort of like, my whole life, I thought one day, I am going to interview other people and share their stories with the world. And I just always knew, and I had this knowing that made no sense, but I just knew I would meet her. I just knew it. And I was like this little girl in a suburb in Washington State.
Like everybody else was, right?
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah.
And when I eventually went, it's a long story that I'll cut because I want to get to the point of it. But I eventually met her at one of her live events backstage. And after meeting her, I wrote her a very long email. And through sheer grace, it got forwarded and she eventually got it. And long story short, she invited me to lunch at her house. So this is, I'm cutting through a lot of how this happened. But I had lunch with Oprah at her home.
Look how you just said that. I had lunch with Oprah. Did you hear what she just said? Just so you know, this little girl who's adopted, who's watching her on television, ends up, you just knew. But now I'm invited. I mean, put yourself in this position, everybody. Whoever your hero is, and that Oprah was your hero for the most part, right? Yeah. Your hero is now inviting you to lunch because that part of it matters because of the rest of the story, what happens afterwards. So now you're going to go see Oprah. Go ahead.
Yes, I know you're one of the few people on the planet that knows the story. So I'm share it for the first time. And honestly, it's embarrassing, but sometimes the biggest struggles or setbacks or mortifying moments or pain we go through is like not a setback. It's really a setup for what we're supposed to do. And and this certainly was for me. So I end up going to Oprah's house, literally shaking in my boots. But also, I was in this moment in my life. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. Super confident. I was so confident. I had just, my company was exploding and I was so proud of, impacting millions and millions of women and trying to change the definition of beauty in the industry and all these things. And I was really self-confident and also, of course, crazy nervous to meet her and really actually sit down. And we had lunch for several hours, just me and her. And at the very end of lunch at her house, she wrote down her cell number. She gave me her cell phone number and said, call me anytime, just like that. And I left and I did not call her for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't call her for 4 years. And when we talk about sabotaging something, right? Yeah. And anyone out there who has done this in some area of their life, in a relationship, a friendship, a career move, whatever it might be, this was like, for me, the person that, my whole life, and now I have her cell phone number.
Right.
For 4 years, I would tell myself things like, oh, you know what? Like, I don't have the right thing to say yet, but when I get the right thing, then I'm going to call her. Or, oh, everyone always wants something from her, right? I'd make up this story. I'd tell myself, everyone always wants things from her. I want to make sure she knows I don't want things from her. I'm here for real, true friendship, so I'm not going to bug her. Or I would always tell myself these versions of why I wasn't calling her. And 4 years went by.
It's incredible.
And I had this huge epiphany. I was like, oh, I'm not calling Oprah because deep down inside, I don't think I'm worthy of being her friend.
In spite of all your success.
Yep. So at that moment, I realized this was a huge breakthrough, because I realized, oh, I have a lot of self-confidence, but not self-worth.
Gosh, Jamie.
And you can have one without the other. And it's why when you keep accomplishing things, or you keep, the thing finally happens, you finally, get that dream relationship, you finally have the kids, or you finally have the breakthrough in your business, but you're like, why am I not happy? Why am I not fulfilled? Why isn't it not enough? Huge breakthrough for me. And when I realized it, A, I was super embarrassed, but B, I realized that is my head, my own self-doubt, my own lack of self-worth telling me these things. But in my soul, I know I am definitely worthy of being her friend, because I'm a kick-ass friend. Like, I'm a ride.
You're an unbelievable friend.
I'm like, I am a ride or die friend. Like, so I'm like, I know in my soul I'm worthy of being her friend. And that was the moment I decided to call her.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
Self-confidence and self-worth are completely different. We so easily confuse the two, and understanding the difference is literally the one thing that will change everything in your life. There are so many of us, myself included, who have actually done so much great work to build self-confidence. But then we sabotage things, we stay stuck, we don't get what we want because we don't realize, oh, I have a whole lot of self-confidence, but I actually don't have strong self-worth. And they're very different. They're very, very different. So self-worth is truly the one thing that can change everything in your life. In your life, your relationships, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your amount of joy and fulfillment. So in Worthy, which is all about, how to believe you're enough and transform your life, there's simple steps that give life-changing results. There is an entire chapter called The One Thing That Changes Everything. And I break down, and I'm going to share right now in this video as well, but I go deep in here on breaking down the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Both are important, but so many of us literally live our entire lives just building self-confidence. And then we never realize, why don't we feel like we're enough? We keep accomplishing more and more and more, and we finally do enough and have enough and become enough and all that, but we still don't feel like we're enough. It's because of not understanding the difference, and it's because of doing all the things that build self-confidence, but none of the things that build self-worth. So let me just break this down for a minute, because this is so important, okay? Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is actually based on so much happening around you externally, and it fluctuates all the time. Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is based on so much externally. So your self-confidence right now is based on things like your own assessment of your skills and abilities, your willingness to try and go for it. If you keep the promises you make to yourself, how you feel you stack up or compare to others, how much of the world's definition of success you believe you have. All those things impact your self-confidence. It can rise and fall quickly based on if you're winning or losing, right? There's studies that show the boxer who wins the match is automatically 30% more confident, right? Your confidence fluctuates. It's fragile. It's volatile. Your self-worth is the deep internal belief in knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not as you achieve, not as what's happening all around you in the outside world, but knowing you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Another way to put this is self-confidence is your belief in your abilities as a person. Self-worth is your belief in your value as a person. Your self-worth is the foundation. Your self-confidence is the house you build upon it. But you'll only ever be as strong as the foundation that that house is built upon. And here's what this looks like in our lives, right? So many of us, you know, let me just ask you this question right off the top. Have you ever had something you really wanted, and you thought, if I eventually get that thing, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll feel enough. Maybe it is a job title, or it's a certain number in the bank account, or it's, you know, 6-pack abs, a certain goal weight. Maybe it is, you know, running the triathlon or doing the triathlon. Maybe it's getting the white picket fence or getting married or, you know, falling in love or having 2.5 kids. You know, have you ever wanted that thing and just thought, one day when I get that, then I'll finally feel happy and fulfilled? And then for so many of us, we've had those things and then we get the thing, right? For some of us, we work really, really hard for years and we finally get the thing. And let me ask you this, when you finally got the thing, then what happened? Were all your hopes and dreams did they miraculously happen? Were you happy and fulfilled and enough forever? Or did you feel this temporary high followed by a slow descent back to feeling like something's missing and like you don't know what's missing, but you just feel like you're not enough and something's missing from your life? Okay, here's why. It's because in the pursuit of all those things, you built a whole lot of self-confidence, but none of those things build self-worth. Self-confidence is really, really important in life, as is growth, always growing in one area or another, as is contributing to something greater than yourself. Those three things are really important, but you multiply all those by your level of self-worth to get your level of ultimate fulfillment in life. Building strong self-worth is truly the one thing that changes everything. It's why I wrote Worthy. There's over 20 tools in here on how to build strong self-worth. Because here's the deal. When you don't, and by the way, there have been so many times in my life where I had so much confidence and I didn't understand why I didn't feel enough, or I didn't understand why I sabotaged an opportunity, or I didn't understand why I stayed stuck and didn't put my art or my ideas or my full expression of my business out there. It's because we will not, over time, we will not perform to the level of our potential. We will plateau at the level of our self-worth. Every time, over time. Every time, over time. It's why you've seen people out there in the world that can achieve everything, have every level of what the world defines success as, fame, fortune, whatever it might be. And they're not happy. And they're not happy, right? Strong self-worth is literally the one thing that changes everything. And if you are wondering if this is an issue in your life, there's really 3 ways that low self-worth can show up, right? One, if we have really, really, really low self-worth, we'll stay stuck. We'll know we have great ideas or we're deserving of an amazing romantic relationship, but we'll stay stuck in one that's not good for our soul. And we don't realize it's because we don't fully feel we're worthy of a great relationship, right? We'll stay stuck and not go after the thing. We'll stay stuck and not write the first word of our book that we know we're born to write. We'll just stay stuck and never go for the thing because we don't believe we're worthy of it. We don't realize that's what it is, but that's so often what it is. So that's one way, staying stuck, right? Another way is if we have, a little bit more self-worth, maybe low self-worth, we'll actually go for things and then we'll sabotage them. We'll meet a really incredible potential partner and we'll somehow mess it up or put them in the friend zone. We literally sometimes just aren't even attracted to them and we don't know why, even though they're a great person. It's because when deep down inside we have low self-worth, we don't believe we're worthy of it. or we'll go after a big opportunity and we'll be so confident doing it, and then we'll just somehow sabotage it. And then if you have medium self-worth, but it's not quite high, you'll actually go for things. You'll accomplish them, right? You may even believe you're worthy of them. But if you only have medium level self-worth, you'll arrive at them and still feel like you're not enough. You'll still feel empty inside. There's so many people in marriages or in, incredible situations in their career where they feel like something's missing, like it's not enough. And they don't know what it is. So they think it's their partner or they think it's their job, right? What it is deep down inside, they haven't done the work to build strong, unshakable self-worth. Your self-worth is the one thing that literally changes everything. So step one is to be aware of the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Your self-worth is your unremitting identity and your belief that you are enough exactly as you are. And by the way, when you learn to believe you're enough exactly as you are, it doesn't prevent you from being ambitious. It actually gives you more ambition because you're not afraid to fail because it doesn't impact your self-worth. You're not afraid to put yourself out there to go for things, even if you fall flat on your face, because yeah, that might hurt your confidence for a minute, but it does not determine your self-worth. Your self-worth is deep, it's internal, it's unwavering. It's why I wrote Worthy, because literally when you learn to build your self-worth, there's over 20 tools in here on how to do it. It is the one thing that transforms everything. Your self-worth is literally the one thing that changes everything. The one thing that changes everything. And so often we think, whether it's in relationships, that we need to, do all the work to understand every detail of them to make them stronger. And that's true. That stuff really, really helps to understand at a granular level, how do you become a great friend or a great partner in a relationship? And all of that work's important. But underneath it all, if you don't also do the work of self-worth, of believing you're worthy of great friendships, of great relationships, then you will always sabotage them, or you will always do something to either never go for them, to never ask the person, do you want to be friends, and invest in that friendship as an adult, or you'll never tell the person you want to be more than friends in the relationship, or you somehow will hold back from showing up as the person you can be in that relationship, if underneath it all, you don't believe you're worthy of a really, really great relationship. We'll sabotage it, we'll either never go for it, or in some other way, we'll make sure it cools down to the level of our self-worth. Similarly in business, in your career, your ambitions, the business you're launching out there into the world. So often we think, oh, I just don't have enough experience yet, or I don't have, the right skill set yet, or the right connections, or the right mentor, all those kind of things. At the end of the day, when deep down inside you believe you're worthy of launching the business, of taking that business to new heights, of being an incredible leader, an incredible CEO, incredible boss, right? It's only by believing you're worthy of it that you'll literally go to that level. This is the one thing that literally changes everything. And so it is important to invest in building a skill set and building attributes and strengths and experiences and all of that. But the most important thing is to build strong self-worth underneath all of it, so that you have the foundation of your own identity. So there's a classic example that has been used for a zillion years in personal development, and it correlates your identity to the example of a thermostat, right? So you probably have heard this example, but it's important when you look at it through the lens of self-worth. So you may have heard a number of thought leaders talk about how we all have our own internal thermostat, right? That's like an automatic one. When you imagine walking into a room, maybe in your house or your office right now, maybe you have an automatic thermostat on the wall, and if you have it set at 75 degrees, and if all of a sudden things heat up in that room, what happens? That thermostat kicks in, lowers the temperature back down, right, to 75. Meanwhile, if things just get freezing cold in that room, it's gonna kick in and raise the temperature back up to 75. And so the classic example that so many thought leaders have shared is really applicable when it comes to self-worth and your identity. Because let's say you set your self-worth, you believe you're worthy, you believe you're worth 75. Okay, that's the level of your self-worth. That's your identity right now, deep internal identity. Well, then when things go really, really right in your business or your relationships or, your friendships or your goals and dreams, and all of a sudden it's on fire, it's a 90, but underneath it, you only believe you're worthy of 75, your thermostat kicks in. It sabotages the relationship. It doesn't call that person back. It doesn't show up and put your ideas out into the world. You work less hard, procrastination, feeling stuck. And before you know it, that 95 is back down to a 75. Similarly, if things are just going awful and they're really bad, they're down there to 50. When you believe you're a 75, you'll figure out, okay, what moves do I need to make? What efforts do I need to put in to get back up to that 75? Here's the thing, and I talk about this, I go deep in the master class inside of Worthy on how do you take that number, that 75 and raise it. How do you raise your internal level of identity and self-worth? Because you will not soar to the level of your goals and dreams. You will stay stuck at the level of your self-worth. It is the one thing that truly transforms everything in your life. And the book, which you can pre-order now, you get lots of bonuses with it. There's over 20 tools in this book, which is why I wrote it, because in my life, there are so many things where I didn't realize, why did I stay stuck? Why did I sabotage that thing? Why didn't I go to the next level? Like when I know in my soul I can, right? It's because when we don't believe we're worthy of it, every day, all day, we will sabotage it. We will stay stuck. We won't go for it because we have our level of identity right there at a 75. You know what I mean? And so if you can relate to this, the very first step is just become aware. Today, all I want you to do, in addition to ordering Worthy, because we're going to go through a lot of trainings together on how to do this as well, but I deep dive into it. But the trainings are part of a bonus when you grab it, when you pre-order the book. But what I really want you to do right now too is just become aware of it. Just become aware and be like, what do I believe my own internal identity is around self-worth? And how does that manifest in my life? What have I sabotaged? And think about all the areas of your life. What areas have I stayed stuck in and I don't know why? Like maybe you have a book inside of you or an idea and you don't know why you haven't written it. Or you have this big idea you want to share in that, team meeting tomorrow. And every time there's an opportunity, you don't share it. Because we will not rise to the level of our goals and dreams. We will stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. So for now, just start to think about the areas of your life and how this impacts it. I love you. I believe in you. And by the way, the best thing is we can raise that number. I know it because I've done it. We can raise that number. Okay? That is the most exciting part.
But let's set the stage first, okay? Because there's some statistics early in the book that blew my mind, particularly as it applied to women, but men aren't real far behind either. Yeah. Give us some of the data on this. Really, you talk about an epidemic. Mm-hmm. Lack of feeling worthy in someone's life. It's at epidemic levels right now. I think the digital age has even made it even worse, probably, particularly for women. But give us some of the data on why this matters so much.
Yeah, men and women. And I think, right now, for anyone listening, if you could be crushing it, hitting career goals, doing everything right, have six-pack abs, whatever it is for you. Yeah. But if deep down inside you still feel like you're not enough, it will affect every single area of your life. And so right now as we're speaking live, 80% of women don't believe they're enough. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. 91% of girls and women don't love their bodies. But 73% of men feel inadequate. And here's the thing is we can be really good at hiding it, but it does not mean it does not surface in every area of our life, our business, our leadership. When you believe you are fundamentally not enough and worthy as you are, it is a lie. It is a lie that you can unlearn. And, I really wrote this book for every girl, every woman, every man, every person to literally learn what are the tools that I can actually apply to my life right now to believe I'm enough. Because Ed, in my life, I worked really hard. I believed that if I did enough things, accomplished enough things, got enough attention, won enough awards, hit a certain number in my bank account, did what the world told me success looks like, that then I'd feel enough. And it was through doing so much of that and then literally sabotaging huge parts of my life and not knowing why, staying stuck and not knowing why. And it's because I didn't understand that I can have a whole lot of self-confidence, but if deep down inside I don't believe I'm enough, like that's what happens, right? We sabotage all these areas of our life. We stay stuck. We don't know why our business isn't doubling. We don't know why we're not happy in our marriage or in our career, and we think it's the other person. When underneath it all, if we don't learn how to build strong self-worth, it literally impacts every area of our life.
What's the difference then between self-confidence? So you're saying I could actually have self-confidence,
yes,
and still not feel worthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think you described me.
It's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you described me. Go ahead, answer that. I want to hear this. This is really good.
Well, and I think that I'm excited for you to share. I'm excited to ask you about this in your life, Ed, because so many people know you, love you. They aspire to have what you have and to all of the things. And I think why they connect with you so deeply, in addition to that, is because you're willing to actually share what's happening deep inside of you.
So are you.
I think, here's the thing. So this is a huge, I always think of that emoji with the head exploding, right? Anyone listening right now, this may be a huge aha moment for you. And I always describe aha moment. I define it as like a moment when your knowing surpasses your conditioned belief system. An aha light bulb moment, right? This was one in my life after I thought I had accomplished it all and didn't understand why I still didn't feel enough. I learned that there is a massive difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Here's the best way I can describe it. And they're both very important in our lives, but they're very different. Self-confidence, while it's an internal trait, it's based so much on what's happening around us externally. It's how we assess our own skills and abilities, how we feel we're, stacking up against other people, our willingness to try and go for it. If we keep the promises we make to ourselves, how much of the world's definition of success that we feel we have, right? There's all the studies that show the boxer who wins the fight is automatically 30% more confident, right? Yeah. Confidence rises and falls. It's fragile. It's volatile. It fluctuates. But self-worth is actually the deep internal knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not as you're achieving, not as you're winning or losing, not as you're, anything else going on the outside, but exactly as you are. And the kind of the way I compare them is self-confidence is your assessment and your abilities as a person. Self-worth is your belief in your value as a person.
Jamie, I got to tell you, I when you were writing the book the whole time, by the way, Jamie came on the show, I don't know, like a year ago, and I had excerpts from the book, and I kept telling you how incredible it was. It's different reading the whole book. It affected me much differently. And by the way, I want to be very clear. This book is not for women. It's for humans. Yeah. And it hit me differently. I think even I've conflated self-confidence with worth. Thinking if I became more confident, if I achieved more things, if I got, and I think I can tell you guys all truly that she's 1,000% right, that there's a distinction between the two, because I'm still working at this stage, and the book helped me, by the way. There's tools and tactics. There's lies in the book that we tell ourselves. Yes. She said something in the book that stood out to me. As I was reading and I was going in the room, I told you, and telling my daughter, Bella, this. And I realized at one point, I didn't need to keep telling Bella all these things. I needed to sit there with it myself. And I'm 52, and I've done a lot of work, as you know, and help a lot of people. In the book, you said, achievement doesn't lead to love or fulfillment.
Yes. Yes.
I think I'm like, you know what? If I just keep achieving things. Yes. If I just keep accumulating things, if I keep helping enough other people too, if I just help enough other people, it's a very different thing than worth. Confidence and achievement is very different than worth. What about you? I'm curious. Do you still struggle with any of this? As kind of the expert who's written the book?
Yeah.
And
every day. And it is a lifelong journey, but learning how to build my self-worth, for the first time in my life, I'm feeling fulfilled.
Good.
For the first time. And I want to share something you just said is so important, because so many of us believe this lie. We don't know it's a lie, but we believe, think everyone, with us right now, Ed, everyone listening and watching this right now, think about, has there been something in your life, a big goal or a dream where you thought, when I finally get that thing, then I'm going to be happy, then I'm going to be fulfilled, then I'm going to be enough. And maybe it's, you know, a certain number in the bank account, or a certain job title, or when your company hits a threshold, or when you get married and have kids, or the six-pack abs, whatever it is. And then you finally got the thing. Maybe it took you years to get it. You finally got it. And then what happens? You might feel excited for a year or a month or a few hours. And before you know it, you're back down to feeling like, I still feel like something's missing. I still feel like this isn't enough. And so then what do? We think, okay, I just got to achieve more. So then we work harder and harder and harder and harder. And listen, to your point, while you're doing this, you're building a whole lot of self-confidence, which is important. A lot of times we're growing in that process, which is important. A lot of times we're serving others, which is so important. Those three things are all very important. But none of this constant hustling, achievement, accomplishment, all the things, none of that actually builds self-worth. It builds a lot of self-confidence, but it doesn't build self-worth. And so here's the deal, y'all. Here is what low self-worth looks like in our life. And by the way, it can look like the man or woman crushing it with millions and millions of followers, or a massive company, or a whole lot of fame, or whatever your definition of success that you believe success is. It can look like that on the outside. But what self-worth looks like on the inside when it's low, okay? And see if you resonate with this at home, because a lot of people feel like, I don't understand why I'm hitting a plateau in my business. I don't understand why I feel stuck. I don't understand why I feel like unfulfilled and like something's missing. So see if one of these boxes, if you check one of these boxes, because here's what low self-worth looks like in our life, even if we're crushing it on the outside, right? If you have super low self-worth, what it looks like is you stay stuck. You're stuck and you don't know why. You know you have a book inside of you to write, but the words aren't coming. You know you have art you want to put out in the world, or this wild business idea that might be so innovative, and you don't know why you're not sharing it, or why you're not going for it, or why you haven't registered the domain, right? Because in our life, and this is across the board, I'm going to start hitting this table. I'm going to get so excited. Ed, every time, over time, we do not perform to the level of our potential. We plateau at the level of our self-worth. And this is in your career, your dreams, your hopes, your ambitions, your relationships, all of it, right? I talk about this a lot in Worthy, in the book, where I say, like, we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. We don't soar to the level of our goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. So if you have low self-worth, like, it looks like, why am I stuck in my life? Now, if you have medium, a little bit more self-worth, here's what that looks like. And maybe this applies to someone listening right now. It looks like, okay, you believe you're worthy enough to go for it, so you go for it. But you don't quite believe you're worthy enough to get it, so you sabotage it, right? If you're someone who goes for things, and say you finally meet that amazing partner, and you don't know why, you F the whole thing up, or you put them in the friend zone, or you're somehow not attracted to them, and you just think, it's because we attract what we believe we're worthy of, right? So if you just have like low to medium self-worth, you'll go for things, but you'll either sabotage them, or you'll just miss out on getting them, and you don't know why. If you have medium to high self-worth, here's what that looks like. That looks like we go for the thing, and we actually get it. We accomplish it. We believe we're worthy of it. But when we don't have super high self-worth, we get the thing, but we still feel like something's missing.
Amen.
We still feel unfulfilled, and we don't know why. Everyone in the world can tell us we're amazing, but deep down inside, we don't think we're enough, so we keep thinking we got to get more, because if we get enough, we'll finally be enough. If we achieve enough, we'll finally be enough, right? If my body fat gets low enough, I'll finally be enough. All of it's a lie. None of it leads to self-worth.
Holy Spirit's flowing through you right now, just so you know. It's awesome to watch. You're in the flow zone. Holy Spirit everywhere. Can feel it while you're talking. I just want to say that to you as your friend. Like, you're in it.
You're going to make me cry. Ed, you know this. I've never said this out loud before in public, but I don't feel like I wrote this book. Like, this book came through me. And I think in our life, like, because you know my life, that I have accomplished a whole lot. But I've also, like, even after selling my company for $1.2 billion cash, I had a lot of confidence, but I did not have a lot of self-worth yet. And I didn't know and I sabotaged things. And this book,
I'm getting emotional because honestly, I think about every girl, every woman, every man out there who right now is going to just keep striving for all this stuff and not realize that if they just learn the tools to be enough exactly as they are, they become more fearless and go for things even more. This doesn't curb feeling strong self-worth and enough exactly as you are does not curb your ambition. Okay. It gives you more ambition, right? There's this lie that we believe that, oh, if I feel like I'm enough and worthy of love and belonging exactly as I am, I'm going to lose my edge. I'm going to lose my ambition. No, actually, when you realize, oh, wait, if I fall flat on my face, if I win, if I lose, yeah, it might affect my confidence, but it does not touch my self-worth. My self-worth is unshakable. Then that's when you become fearless. That's when you actually become more ambitious because you don't care about the outcome because you know it can't rattle you, right? So building strong self-worth, it's the foundation. Your confidence is the house you build upon the foundation. But that house is only as rock solid as the foundation of self-worth you have under it that then equates to your level of fulfillment and also your level of fearlessness in going after the things, the dreams on your heart, your potential, your calling, the person you're born to be.
Oh my gosh. Like, first off, everybody, I just want to step out of this because if I won't remember because I'm so dialed in. But if you go to worthybook.com/Ed, you can qualify to get coached by Jamie and I on a coaching call with us and also get the book. And I just highly recommend you do that. So I have to tell you how this applies with me. Number one, in my baseball career, when I went away to college, I always held a little bit in reserve. I worked hard. None of my teammates or coaches, I don't think, would ever know I didn't give it everything. But I still have nightmares to this day about not making it in professional baseball after all that I've accomplished. And I've evaluated later in my life, any of you right now that aren't giving it everything you've got in a relationship or in a business or something, take this page out of my book and what Jamie just said. I'll give you the application of two things he said. I've evaluated it, and I left a little bit in the tank. Almost like, did I do it so I'd have an excuse later? Like, why'd I? Just a little bit. There was more in me I could have given. And I'll regret it the rest of my life. No matter what I achieved, that was an opportunity and a moment in my life that I didn't max out. And the truth is, it's because I didn't think I was worthy of it. I just didn't. And it showed up. And I think after that, I went, you know what? That's never going to be the case again. I'm going to achieve. What I went to work on was my self-confidence, not my worth. And so I became a very self-confident man. And then I achieved. And where the worthiness thing shows up for me, just so the audience knows the areas that it can show up, I do think I'm worthy of wealth. I've produced it. I do think I'm worthy of feeling some happiness and joy in my life. I actually have that. For me, the worthiness thing shows up in love. I give love to all other people. But in my own life, in my quiet moments, I don't allow myself to feel it very often. Even from people who truly love me. I don't allow myself to feel it and experience it on a deep level, not the way that I should. And my evaluation in reading your work just this last week again was like, that's because I don't think I'm worthy of it. And so I won't allow myself to feel that. I'll give it. But that area of my life, feeling loved, I think just because of the way I was raised or whatever it is, I just don't feel like I'm worthy of it. And yet when I read the book, I learned tools on how to begin to change that. So I want to tell you that it profoundly affected me, someone that you know very, very well. But did that show up for you too, the love part of it? Because obviously you produced a lot of wealth, a lot of success, a lot of notoriety. But it was the love part in my life, like just feeling loved, that I never allowed myself, and still don't most of the time, to experience. That's where it shows up for me.
And I know, obviously, I won't call this out here, but I know also when that can look like keeping friends in our life that don't love us back the way we love them, that don't show up for us. Right? You and I both have done that. Also, I just want to say this, that, you know, a lot of your audience might know these parts of your stories from your book, The Power of One More, from other areas. When you were growing up, you were the one that had to love everyone else. You were the one, Ed, that like took care of your family. You were the one that so many times had to be the man of the house. You were the one that had to see, is my dad going to enter the key and I'm going to hear it and know within a second he's drunk right now and I'm going to have to protect my mom. Like you were the one giving all the love. And so, you know, for those of us who've gone through tough experiences, which a lot of us have in different ways.
Yeah, you have for sure.
Learning to love ourselves right now. First of all, it will impact every relationship in your entire life, because whether you're talking about your romantic partner or your kids or your friends, your depth, all the studies will prove this, your depth of connection and love with them between you and them can only be as strong as your depth of love and connection with yourself. And we have this lie that tells us, oh, loving myself is selfless, or it's some kind of woo-woo stuff, or this or that. Oh, Like doing the work to learn to believe you are lovable, worthy of love, and actually loving yourself and connecting with yourself. So many of us go through the entire day. We know how to like deliver for everyone else, please everyone else, make everyone else happy. We don't even know how we feel. We don't know how we feel. We're not connected to ourselves. We don't believe we're worthy of connecting to ourselves. It impacts every other relationship. And then we end up feeling lonely. So there's a lot of us that can serve and give and show up the way we think everyone else needs, but we actually feel lonely, and we don't realize we're robbing them of a depth of connection if we don't do the work on learning to believe we're worthy exactly as we are and learning to love ourselves, right? And there's a lot of tools in the book, Worthy, on how to do this. There's a whole section on self-worth shortcuts, and this has shown up in my life a lot.
Give us one of them right now. And I'm going to ask you about the disconnection thing, because you asked me last night, what are your favorite parts of the book? I think it probably surprised you what some of my favorite parts of the book were, but one of them is on disconnection.
Yes.
Because I'm familiar with it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But give us one little tip from the book.
I will. Okay. Before I forget to say this to you, I just have to say it. I want to thank you for being so generous, because when people go to worthybook.com/ed, if you pre-order, you're getting a coaching call live with me and Ed.
Yep.
Everybody who does that at worthybook.com/ed is getting a live coaching call with Ed and me. I'm so excited about it, but I know how precious your time is, and I just want to say thank you for that.
I'm honored to do it.
Okay, so two things. Actually, why don't I just go there?
Okay.
I have never said these words out of my mouth ever publicly in my life, and you now know this story. My mom, who passed away last year, knows this story. That's it until this book comes out. I never knew growing up why I didn't feel enough. And I mean, I learned later in life I was adopted. I learned all the things. My parents worked a ton. I was alone a lot. But I believe the lie that achievement equaled love, or attention equaled love. And, when I was 18, I started working in a health club in sales. And I was the receptionist. And then what happened is that all the salespeople got so busy, they asked me to start doing club tours. It was this health club with 8,000 members. I'd do the club tour, and I'd have to present the membership pricing at the end. I started crushing it in sales, right? And all of a sudden, I was outperforming the sales team. Now, you're promoted in this health club not based on your qualifications or if you're even mature enough to handle it. It's pure numbers. All they care about is who's making the most money. So I get promoted into sales. And then I start crushing it in the sales team, and I get promoted to assistant manager, eventually manager. All the people reporting into me are like twice my age, and they're people that have been selling their whole career. Here we go, you guys. You're going to believe this. There's one guy in particular who, Ed, let me just, I'm going to be embarrassed saying this out loud in front of you. Great. Okay, he was the first guy in my life where I was like, he is so hot. By the way, he's double my age. Okay, he's double my age, and he's dating a number of women, and he literally looks like an A-list celebrity to me. I'll never forget one moment. I'm standing there at the front desk closing another sale, like recording it. He walks by, and you know that moment when someone holds eye contact with you, and that moment just shifted, and you're no longer just friends. In this case, I was his boss.
You're his boss when he's twice your age.
And he's twice my age. And also, I knew he was dating half of the other. He was dating so many women. At the time, I had a lot of confidence. I was crushing sales. My numbers were top every week, right? But I did not have a lot of self-worth. And we started dating. I fell in love. I was in love. And I eventually said, let's just be exclusive. And he's like, no. No. And I was like, okay, I had to decide in that moment. Do I want to love him and betray myself? And I chose to. And because again, we're talking about careers, business, all the ways self-worth it can impact your relationships. It can impact every area of your life. And I literally was just crushed every week over and over and over and over, and stayed in that relationship. And eventually I decided to leave and move off to college. So now we break up. I go off to college and I'm waitressing at Denny's. I get a job waitressing at Denny's. These are the words I have never shared.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.